Campbell, are you ready? Yes. Okay. The Board of Zoning Appeals of Kent County, Maryland, this 16th day of October in session. Dr. Al Townsend, Joan Horsey, and John Massey are sitting, and David Hill will be observing. Chris Drummond is serving as attorney for the board. Bill Mackey, Carla Gerber, Mark Carper, and Campbell Sathan are serving as staff. The board has before it 3 applications: Lawrence and Donna Miller, Little Neck Farm Homeowners Association, and Cackaway Farm Cooperative Housing Corporation. The clerk will now read into the record the notice of this hearing, all pertinent facts, and will identify all correspondence received in this matter, which has been provided by the members of the board.
One, just give us the Miller one, and then we'll do the next one and the next one. Okay?
So just read the Miller right
Part
now?
one for now, yeah.
Okay. The following notice was placed in the Kent County News on October 12th, 2023. On Monday, October 16, 2023, at 5 p.m., the Kent County Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing in the County Commissioners' Hearing Room at 400 High Street, Chestertown, Maryland. Lawrence and Donna Miller requesting a variance to construct an addition to an existing single-family dwelling that is partially located within the buffer. The property is located at 10129 Cove Road. Letters were mailed to adjacent property owners on September 14th, and the property was posted on September 15th, 2023.
When was it in the paper? I'm sorry.
October 12th.
Thank you. Correspondence?
We did receive correspondence, and that will be read at the time of the staff report.
Okay. The hearing will follow this procedure. The applicant will present their case, after which the board and anyone present may cross-examine them in regard to their testimony. If the applicant should have any witnesses to speak on their behalf, they will each testify, and the board and anyone present may cross-examine each witness in regard to their testimony. Anyone else present who wishes to testify on behalf of the applicant can do so and then be cross-examined. Protestants will then testify, after which each may be cross-examined in regard to their testimony by the board and anyone present. The board, at its discretion, may call staff or another person deemed appropriate to testify, after which staff or the witness called may be cross-examined in regard to their testimony by the board and anyone present. After everyone has testified, then the applicant and protestants may each be allowed to present closing arguments. Will the applicant come forward? And if you'll raise your right hand. Do you declare that the testimony that you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? I do. And if you all will identify yourselves and your address and your position tonight.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'm Lance Young with McLeod Law Group, representing the applicants.
Okay,
I'm Larry Miller. I'm the homeowner at 10129 Cove Road.
good, thank you.
Chairman, we provided large copies of the site plan that came with our application. Can we give those to you now so that you
Sure.
have those large copies?
Okay, go ahead, tell us what you're
So
asking.
we are here requesting a variance of the critical area buffer. The applicants are requesting to build a 467 square foot addition to their home. The project and the home itself meets all of the other setback requirements of the county. It meets all of the density requirements of the county. The reason for the variance is that the home that exists was built within the critical area buffer. The home itself is non-conforming. It was put there in 1974, years before the critical area law came into existence. so it's non-conforming in that manner. The reconfiguration that they want to do to their home is modest in nature, but it does have to be partially within that critical area buffer. The reason for that is that the way that the house sits on the property, the front end of the house is completely within the critical area buffer. The back end is not, and both sides of the house are partially within the buffer. We don't want to put the addition on the front end of the house, and that wouldn't make sense because that's completely within the buffer anyway. It can't go on the back side of the house. You'll see on that site plan drawing that there are pavers on the back side. Those pavers actually act as a retaining wall because the home itself sits on a slope. And so what that retaining wall does is it holds back soil from behind that house. And so if you were to remove those pavers or remove those soil, then that would seriously infringe on the structure of the home. This has been before the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission has supported, or they've recommended approval of the project. The Critical Area Commission has reviewed this, and they've supported it as long as there is a 3-to-1 mitigation plan that's been approved. We've submitted a 3-to-1 mitigation plan, and my understanding is that the county has approved that mitigation plan. So I have Dr. Miller here with me, and I'm just going to ask him a couple questions about why they need the variance and what they've done. Dr. Miller, could you please introduce yourself?
Hi, Larry Miller. Nice to meet you all. So Donna and I, we've owned this home for 36 years now, bought it a long time ago, and have improved it. Our plan always was that when I was able to retire, we'd move down here completely and live out the rest of our years at this home. It's almost completely on one floor, but not enough to make it safe and easy to live in. And also, I'm still doing some work. I was in academic medicine up in the Philadelphia region. I'm still doing some teaching. And so this addition would give us, most importantly, an area to bump a section out and put a washer and dryer upstairs. Right now, our washer dryer is in the basement, and it's a really high basement. It's close to 14 feet. So it's 17 steps down. We have a picture of it. So right now, we usually kick the clothing down and then get it, but you still have to carry it up. And, we're getting older. Donna's had back surgery. She's getting a procedure on her neck tomorrow up in Philly, and had shoulder surgery. So I do help. We carry stuff back and forth. But, it's a lot to do, and that would give us just about everything we need up on the main floor. So that's one reason. The other reason is I need a study to move down that has my books and a computer and places where I can put some talks together. And then the last is it'll give us a space to have a Peloton and a rowing machine. That's been my sport. And to help us stay in shape, I'm 70 now and, want to stay active and enjoy as many years as we can down here. So that's the main reason. We did initially come up with a really neat concept that was bigger, and then we had Buck come to kind of take a look at it, and we didn't realize, I never knew we were in the critical zone completely. So we bagged that because this is really all we need to get the thing done. And it'll serve our purposes fine. But we did have a larger structure that didn't make sense.
And can you elaborate on why you need that home office? What's your profession? What is it that you
Oh,
do?
so I'm an orthopedic surgeon, and I taught at Jefferson for half of my career. I don't know if you know the hospital's up there, in Cooper, which is in Camden, New Jersey, and have been part of the medical school up there. So I stepped down. I chaired the Department of Orthopedic Surgery for 18 years, and I taught kind of full-time at the med school for a year, partial technically, but a lot of time. And now I'm continuing to do musculoskeletal lectures. I go up and I lecture, and WebEx makes it a lot easier, so I need a place where I can be on the computer and do WebEx and prep some talks and stuff. So I'm going to try to do that as many years as I can. I mean, I really enjoy it. It's what I've done my entire career. So that's one of the main reasons.
And we also have Buck Nickerson with us. He prepared the site plan. He's here, and he can answer any technical questions you may have about that. Otherwise, I'd leave it to your discretion. Would you prefer that I go through the critical area variance criteria? Would you like to go? Okay. So the criteria are, to begin with, will it cause a substantial detriment to the adjacent or neighboring property? This is a 5-acre lot. The house itself is far away from the setbacks. It's not going to impact any neighbors. At the Planning Commission hearing, we had 2 neighbors who came in support of the variance. But there has been no opposition from any neighbors that we're aware of. The second criteria is whether or not it will change the character of the neighborhood. This is a relatively modest enhancement to the home. It's not even going to change the character of the home, so it won't change the character of the neighborhood either. C, whether it's consistent with the comprehensive plan and general intent of the ordinance. The Planning Commission has determined that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The fourth criteria is whether a hardship has been caused by a topographical condition on the property. As I mentioned to you before, the property itself sits on a slope, which makes it impossible for us to put this addition on the back side of the house. So really the only place to put it is on the side of the house, which is partially within the critical area buffer.
Well, some of that is also because of the equipment that's in the front of the back of the house as well, the septic things and the well.
That's correct.
And so there's more than just the slope.
There's more than just the slope. Yeah, as you said, the septic area would be making it possible to put on one side of the house. Really, the one side where they're proposing it is the only side of the house where they would be able to put it.
Yeah.
Even on the other side, there's a deck, and that they wouldn't be able to put anything there.
Okay.
We moved it as close to the hood system as they say we can get it, which is, as far up toward the road, or not the road, the driveway. So we're right up as far as we can get it.
The fifth criteria is whether or not the hardship is caused by the applicants themselves. This is a non-conforming home. It was put there in 1974, long before the Millers purchased that home. And the topographical conditions are also conditions that were not caused by the applicants. Additional buffer considerations, whether or not it was in harmony with the general intent of the critical area law. The Critical Area Commission has recommended approval of it with that 3-to-1 mitigation plan. And we think that that 3-to-1 mitigation plan, in effect, it will actually enhance the critical area. And so for that reason, it's in harmony with the critical area law. For the same reasons, it won't adversely impact fish and wildlife and plant habitat. That 3-to-1 mitigation plan that will be put into effect will actually improve those things. A copy of the variance application has been provided to the Critical Area Commission. And then the unwarranted hardship itself. The unwarranted hardship it arises from the existence of the non-conforming house within the critical area. Absent the critical area, this house would be well within the density requirements, well within the setback requirements, and homeowners in similar situation would be able to do a reconfiguration of this without any problem at all. It's only because their home was built where the critical area came into effect after the house was put there that they have this hardship. It's reasonable for homeowners to be able to want to put a home office, especially a doctor like Dr. Miller, who's an academic professor and needs that home office. And it's reasonable for them to have laundry facilities on the main floor of the house where they tend to grow old in. They don't want to have to go up and down those stairs as they get older, and especially when there's back and neck problems with Mrs. Miller currently. It's the minimum amount of relief necessary. They, like Mr. Miller testified, they had bigger plans that they completely did away with, and this is the minimum amount that they possibly need to have that home office, to have that exercise equipment, and to be able to put that washer and dryer on the main level. And without the variance, these are reasonable uses that they would be deprived of on their property. This is a hardship that's not generally shared by others in the vicinity. Like I said, this is a house that's halfway in the critical area, halfway out, and it's also a home that's on a slope. Those aren't qualities that no house has to deal with, but they are unique. And without the variance, it deprives the applicants of rights that are commonly enjoyed by other properties. Like I mentioned before, This is a reasonable configuration that most homeowners would be able to do without any problem if their house didn't happen to exist within the critical area. So with that, I'll take any questions that you all have.
And the critical area, we've received a copy of the Critical Area Commission's report.
Yes.
They don't oppose the applicants.
They don't oppose it. Their only recommendation was that we get that 3-to-1 mitigation plan
mitigation.
approved.
Yeah, yeah. And is there a stormwater management plan, or is there a buffer management plan that's been submitted to the,
Yes, so
and does that include stormwater?
I don't believe that there's any stormwater management requirements for this.
Okay, okay. Okay, Ms. Horsey, you have any questions?
I noticed, I think the planning commission noted that they wanted the well on the site plan, addition of the well, but it looks to me like it's already on here.
Yeah, and when they made that recommendation, it was already on there, so.
That's it.
As you say, it's a modest addition, and once the addition's complete, there won't be any heavy traffic in the critical area. There's no driveways or anything.
Yeah.
All right, that's all.
Mr. Drummond?
No,
You have questions? Okay, is there anyone else that you'd like to testify? I don't think we need Mr. Nickerson.
Only if you have questions for Mr. Nickerson.
Okay, all right. If you'll step back, we'll ask for opposition. Is there anyone present who's opposed to the applicant's request? If you'd like to make a closing statement, you could do that right now.
No, I don't have any closing statement. I just request that the board.
Oh, I'm sorry, we gotta ask staff first.
Okay.
Okay. All right, staff. I'm too anxious. Do you declare that the testimony you're about to give in this case be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and position.
Mark Harper, Associate Planner.
Okay, and staff's recommendations.
Staff does recommend approval of this variance request. We have received a buffer management plan. There are two components to that particular plan. One is the mitigation for the increased impact upon the buffer itself. That's the 3-to-1 that was mentioned before. The proposed addition sort of sits across the buffer area and outside the buffer area. The portion that's outside the buffer area is considered an increase in the lot coverage. So they have a 1-to-1 mitigation for that requirement. The submitted buffer management plan addresses both of those requirements. The site plan that was submitted does include the well. So part of the staff report indicated that was part of the portion that be required. At the Planning Commission meeting, they submitted those materials. There were 3 correspondences in favor of this particular application. They were read at Planning Commission. If you want, I can read those out for the record here, if you like.
Can we just make a part, just tell us who they are and.
Sure.
And give us their address, please.
Yes. One is from Dr. Stephen and Mindy Weinstein, 10078.
Wait a minute. Stephen, is it PH or V?
Beg your pardon?
Stephen, it's PH or V?
A V. And Mindy Weinstein, Weinstein. 10078 Forest Lane, Chestertown, Maryland, 21620. And they are in support of this application. The other is an email from Lisa Marley. I don't have an address for this particular person. Last name is spelled Marley. And they're in support of the Miller's plan and application. And the other is from Robert and Lynn Cassidy, Cassady, at 10090 Forest Lane. And they are in favor, or they support this application.
Is that in the vicinity?
Yes.
Forest Lane? All right.
Yes, they are on adjoining property.
Okay.
Mr. Massey, you have any questions? Mr. Drummond, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you'd like to give a closing statement, you certainly can.
I don't have a closing statement. I think we've said what we need to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you'll give us a minute, we'll sit back and discuss this. Mr. Massey?
Well, it's a modest addition. It's not any closer into the critical area than the existing house by the measurements. There's no driveway, it won't bring any heavy traffic into the critical area. And as he said, the Critical Area Commission, I've never seen them approve anything, but they did not oppose this. So, that's all I have.
Okay. It does seem that there are structural things that would prohibit it from being put
Further
in
back,
other
yes.
areas of the,
Right.
other areas of the property as well, and still be connected to the house.
Yeah, that's true.
Ms. Horsey?
I can understand the hardship, and I also think they've met all the criteria to be able to approve this.
If somebody'd like to make a motion, we can.
I'll make a motion. In the matter of the Lawrence and Donna Miller variance for development in the buffer, I'll make a motion that we approve the variance to construct a 468 square foot addition to the existing single-family dwelling. The address is 10129 Cove Road. We approve this with the following conditions: the approval of the buffer management plan, and the variance will lapse after the expiration of 1 year if no substantial construction in accordance with the plan herein presented occurs.
Second.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
The application's been approved, and you should get notification within 30 days. All right, thank you.
Thank you. And good luck with your surgery tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah. I believe the next application is the Little Neck Farm Homeowners Association.
Little Neck Farm Homeowners Association, Inc., requesting a variance from the 150-foot pier length limit to construct a replacement pier. The community property is located off of Burris Road and is identified as map 45, parcel 49, lot OS near Rock Hall. Letters were mailed to adjacent property owners on August 21, and the property was posted on August 23rd,
And it was in the paper again when?
October 12th.
Okay.
Chris, do I need to repeat this now?
Maybe just make sure, maybe ask the witness if he was present
I
when
noted
you
that
read
you were
it.
here when I gave the instructions for the testimony,
And the procedure.
and if you're okay with what I previously said, I won't have to repeat it.
I'm fine with
it. Okay. Just save a little time.
Yeah, sure.
So, okay, and if you'll please stand, raise your right hand. Do you declare that the testimony that you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please be seated. State your name and
George
address.
Barnett,
And your address?
6893 Hagee Road in Rock Hall.
Okay.
Where's what? I'm sorry, your last name?
Barnett.
Barnett?
Yep,
2 Ts?
2 Ts.
And you're on the board or the president of the homeowners association?
I'm the secretary of the homeowners association at Little Neck Farm.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and if you'll briefly describe what you're trying to,
Well, we're here for a variance for our dock. We want to replace our dock because it's over 30 years old and it's falling down. And apparently just replacing it would require a variance because there may never have been a variance originally granted for it. We can't find one. We've looked around.
Probably wasn't a permit, is probably the answer.
So we need it principally just to replace, just to even work on the dock, I think. But while we're at it, we would like to move it out 15 feet. And that's to avoid an area, a very shallow area that's developed on this one corner, and I have a drawing of that that I can.
I think we have a map of,
Yeah, but it doesn't show this, we went out in a boat with a pole and took depth readings of all around the dock, and we found this area that people keep running aground on when they try to get into these inner slips, so that's why we're trying to move it out another 15 feet.
okay.
And we've got approval from the NDE and approval from the Corps of Army Engineers to do that, and a recommendation from the Planning Commission, so.
Chris? Yeah.
None of the current residents in the association lived here 30 years ago when the dock was built, so.
Let's get ourselves oriented. Is this fast land down here?
Yeah, that's the land.
Yeah, because as I recall, it goes out and turns to the
Yep.
right. Go along the shoreline.
Yeah.
And this is where you're, so the record is clear, we'll call this Exhibit A, applicant's Exhibit A or something. You've shown over here to the right, there's hand-drawn, must be a spit of land that sticks out.
It's a shallow area. It's not actually land. Yeah, it's an
Oh, I see.
area of
The
siltation.
land is down here.
Yeah, the land's still back there,
So
but,
this is water.
yep,
And this is
shallow spot.
20 feet from the edge of the T.
Yeah. Makes it
So
difficult.
you want to get the edge of the T head out 35 feet.
Well, 15 feet more than it is now.
Well, you say this is about 20, so that.
Yeah, we'd like to get it 30 feet away from the,
So the first part of the pier, the 82 feet of wooden dock will remain?
Yes.
It's, nothing's changing with that?
nothing's changing with that.
And you're just extending out the floating part of the
Correct.
dockage?
Yeah. That first 85 feet or 80, however many feet, was recently replaced, 10 years ago.
Okay.
And it's in very good shape, so.
And that gives you ample depth
Yep,
on those inner slips?
there's ample depth in the slips right now, but there's not quite ample depth to get to them.
Oh,
Because
to
of
get
that
in there.
shallow spot,
Okay, I see. I see. So by moving it
What you're
out 50,
asking- I'm sorry, you're asking only to move
That section,
this.
To the right.
This section 15 feet out.
15 feet
Oh,
out,
okay.
yeah.
yeah,
All right.
okay. And 15 feet will give you more than 5 feet of depth
yes,
for them to come around the corner?
that's the idea.
Okay.
All right, I see it now. I got it now.
It's not something we want to do. It's going to be very expensive. but
Sure.
But
We kind of have to do it.
is the existing dock a floating dock or a fixed dock?
It's a fixed dock.
So you're gonna have to take out the fixed dock and build a floating dock.
Yes.
You may recall about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, we went through this exercise, I've forgotten who it was, where because they wanted to take it out completely, they had to come and get approval. If they took it down piece by piece
Replaced it.
and replaced it, they didn't need it.
Yeah,
I've forgotten which one it was, but,
yeah, Williams.
okay. So arguably, they could take this down piece by piece and build it back up, but if they're going from a fixed pier to a floating pier, that's not going to be possible, so.
Well, they're changing a little bit, too.
They're going out, right, yeah.
I think the existing portion you want to replace is 10 feet wide, and you're going to make it 6?
Yes.
Okay, so they're actually changing that, too.
Because MDE won't let you build anything.
And you do have aquatic vegetation, SUVs?
We drove all around there in a boat that had a picture of the bottom. It was just grass, the whole place.
It's all grass?
Yeah, it's all grass.
Well, that's good.
Which is why the crabbing is so great.
So there's a great advantage for keeping that 82-foot dock in and not disturbing that.
Right.
There's the subaquatic vegetation. Good, good. So the practical difficulty is the shallow,
Right, correct.
the shallow water and the condition of the existing dock.
Well, yeah, the condition of the existing dock is falling down.
May we, are we correct in assuming that this shallow area has been created since the dock was built?
That's, can only be our assumption. I mean, like I said, none of us lived here 30 years ago, but
But is it anecdotally true that people didn't go aground some years ago and now they've
Yeah.
started to go
yeah,
aground?
that's what
Okay.
people tell me.
Okay, that's helpful.
And you've also submitted a series of statements addressing the standards in which the Board of Appeals may grant a variance. So I don't think we need to.
Part of the record.
Yeah, it's already part of the record, so we don't need to go into that. Ms. Horsey, do you have any questions?
I don't think I do. I think I'm okay with this.
Did I hear you say we heard from the Critical Area Commission? Or not critical area, but,
It's outside the critical area.
pardon?
It's not within the critical area, that's above mean high water,
Okay,
so it wasn't presented to the critical area commission.
okay. Mr. Massey? Mr. Drummond?
No, I don't have
Any
any questions.
Okay. Anyone in the audience have questions? Did you bring anyone else that you'd like to testify?
He's okay.
Is there anyone opposed to the applicant's request? Okay, if you'll step back, we'll call staff. I think you're already sworn in. Do we need to do him again? I didn't think so. Okay. Go ahead. Staff's opinion?
I beg your pardon?
Staff's recommendations.
Oh, staff does recommend approval of this application. There was in 1989, according to our records, the Board of Appeals granted what was termed a special exception for the longer than allowable pier at the time. At that time, it was 100 feet from mean high water. Because of the shallowness, they did allow for an extension and also the configuration that you see here. Don't have any other no correspondence of this particular application. I think in terms of the depth and the presence of the subaquatic vegetation, moving it out seems to make sense, so as not to disturb those and allow for movement of boats into the interior of those slips.
And I believe, according to the written testimony by the applicant, there's really no impact on neighbors.
They are quite a distance from
Yeah, they have a
other
large piece of
piers
property.
on that side. Across the water, there are some piers, but the channel is wide, sufficiently wide.
And it's nowhere near encroaching into the channel.
No, it's not going beyond 25% of the width of the channel.
Okay, any questions?
Have they made their homeowners association good with the Maryland Department of Assessments?
That I don't know.
They have?
I'm not sure.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the homeowners association. There's the, for the record, homeowners association returned to status of good standing. Yes, I have a copy of that. Okay.
and I guess my other question is, have,
I'll circulate this up there.
and have you discussed the standpipe system with the applicant, system that was recommended?
Yeah, I mean, that's a requirement in order to get the permit,
Okay,
for sure.
right.
Yep.
Okay. That's all I know.
Do we keep this?
Well, maybe, Kendall, can you make a copy before we leave tonight? Yeah, well, a copy for the record.
Mr. Massey, do you have any questions? No. Mr. Drummond?
No.
Okay, I don't either, so thank you. If you'd like to make a closing statement, you certainly can.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, all right.
Any questions?
Okay. And what are your thoughts?
I don't see any problem with this.
No, I don't either. I think it's a good request. The existing pier is in disrepair. Sedimentation has restricted use of some of it. They're only asking for a modest extension of the dock. And so it seems like a reasonable request. So.
Want me to make a motion? Okay, I'd like to move to approve the variance for the Little Neck Farm Homeowners Association requesting 150-foot pier length limit in order to construct a replacement pier by replacing the existing 224-foot pier with a 239-foot pier, which is located off Burris Road in the 5th Election District, map 45, parcel 49, for use of the lot owners, subject to good standing status, which they've given us that, and also that a standpipe system be installed at the applicant's expense in accordance with the NFPA 303, and that plans be submitted to the fire marshal for review and approval prior to any action being taken.
Is that on? Oh, I see it here, okay. Got it. And 1 year, right?
Yeah, and the 1 year,
Right.
Substantial completion
Good for
within 1
1 year.
year.
Is that 1 year good from the date that the decision is signed? I just want to, okay.
Second.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
The applicant passed, and you'll be getting notification within 30 days.
Do we need to make a photo of this?
And
No? No? Okay. All right, we'll just make it part of the exhibits in the file. Thank you.
The board has before it the Cackaway Farm Cooperative Housing Corporation. Will the applicant come forward, please? If you all will raise your right hand. Do you declare that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, please be seated. State your names and address, please.
My name is Katie Lightburn. My address is 23393 Cackaway Farm Lane, Chestertown, Maryland.
Okay.
My name is Marcy Brown. My address is 11196 Green Cove Drive, Wharton, Maryland, 21670.
Okay. And tell us what you're asking for. I know that there has been a director's decision, and I believe you're appealing that decision. So if you would
Yes.
get into that, I think we're following the right procedure. And did you hear, do we need to follow this protocol?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And I think you were here when we read this protocol, that,
The procedure.
Yes.
okay. And you're okay with following that?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So I am treasurer of the Cackaway Farm Cooperative Housing Corp., and I'm representing them. My goal here today is to emphasize the fact that we are not asking to encroach on or change any land, any additional centimeter into the critical area. No changes, no additions, no development. The goals of the Critical Area Commission and our goals are the same and have been ever since Cackaway Farm, a 182-acre farm, came under our stewardship in 1988. Our goals were limited development and limited density, as well as utilization of the cluster ideal, no sprawling subdivision with paved over lanes, et cetera. And we did put the entire 182-acre farm in the critical area. Our appeal of this administrator's decision is just a request to clarify the effect of the request on the critical area. We're not requesting a variance to density for development. There's no development being requested. It's already done. The 3 dwellings in question existed when the farm was purchased in 1988. Lot lines were drawn around each dwelling then for the cooperative structure. You can see that on the Macron drawing, which utilized the 182 acres of available density. Thus, the COMAR regulation that was cited does not apply because it refers to development, and I want to emphasize there's no new development being requested.
Unfortunately, subdivision is included within the definition of development.
There's no change in density from 1989 to now that has occurred in this whole 182 acres. And none is requested or intended in the future. That's our request, is to review the fact that we're not changing anything. And if you can see on the plat that those lots have been in existence with the cooperative since 1989, and we merely want to record those lot lines. It's my understanding that Carla thought that perhaps it was a simple lot line adjustment, because this has been the structure since 1989, and nothing has changed. We don't intend to change anything. In fact, we've committed to the county not to do any more development or additions.
And you're familiar with the critical area commission's opinion with regard to
Yes,
matter?
yes, yes.
And within the critical area, we definitely agree to have a 200-foot setback for these 3 properties.
Yeah, it seems that that's an important factor, which is, we don't have a problem with that. We certainly would go along with those 3.
I'm referring to the 20-acre requirement in order to create a subdivision,
The density requirement.
the density requirement.
Right, well, the density requirement was there in 1989 when these 3 dwellings were already in existence. And in 1989, the the creation of 5 lots constituted a major subdivision. A major subdivision, part of the requirements were that you pave the roads. That is more impervious surface. So the cooperative structure was recommended to handle the 3 existing, and then we only added 2 more dwellings. So we had density that it could accommodate 8 or 9 development rights because of the 182 acres, and that we only, so we have 5.
So you could have done it back in 1989 when you also had the 180-acre Cackaway Farms
Yes.
there, but that's no longer a part of the
Since
what's
the,
going on now.
since that time, since the 5 were created, the Farm Corp has been, they've been split. So originally, the 82 acres was Cackaway Farm Cooperative Housing Corp. And then later, we separated the farming acreage from the cooperative.
And this may be impertinent, or if it's not impertinent, a question you can't or don't want to answer, but I believe that the Farm Corporation is also in the MISALAG orbit. Am I right about that?
Well,
There's no, and I understand efforts have been made perhaps to seek an accommodation for the density of the, there's not really a density transfer
it's a
process
development,
in
right?
Kent County, but something might be able to be worked out. But whoever's in charge of the Farm Corp is not interested in,
That's still in process.
There's a question of development rights.
right.
And it's not the same owners that own the Farm Corp, that own the
Well, I don't need to know
cooperative. Yeah.
the details if you don't want to tell us
Well,
then, but.
I mean, that's why it is an issue.
Well, okay, so a cooperative housing, a corporation, is a feature of Maryland law. It is not used very often in Maryland. If you were to go to New York, for example, housing co-ops are, most of the buildings in New York City, or many of the buildings in New York City, residential ones at least, are housing co-ops. We don't have them here, really. This happens to be one. The housing co-op owns the whole, whatever, in this case it was 182 acres. Now it's down to, as I understand it, about 15 acres.
So the original entity was the Cackaway Farm Cooperative Housing Corporation?
Well, I think the
Yes.
MISALAG family
Yes,
owned it
was the
before then.
original.
Okay.
And then the housing co-op was created so that members of the MISALAG family could have exclusive use of the various homes on the property, as I'm assuming what happened. So what you have is a piece of property that's one piece of property. It's not cut up. It's not subdivided. The housing co-op then has basically stockholders, and you own a share of stock in the housing co-op. And what comes with that is oftentimes a right to use a particular improvement to the real estate. In a city, in an apartment building, you own a share of stock and the exclusive right to use apartment 204. And so the other stockholders can't come into your apartment, and you can't go into their apartment. Here, you would own a share of stock in the housing co-op with a right to exclusive use of one of the houses, so that your sister can't come into your house if you don't want her to come in there, or your brother, whatever. And for tax purposes, the lots that are being described are not lots as we think about them, zoning lots. They're created by SDAT for the purpose of valuing the structure with an acre around it to collect property taxes. But it's not a lot that's been created by subdivision.
So they're taxed now according to the diagram?
Value of the structure plus an acre.
Plus the value of that. But they're taxed according to the measurements on the map that they gave us.
I think that's right,
With
yes.
regard to the size of the property and
That's right.
structures and all. Okay. They're taxed individually.
The houses with an acre around them.
Okay.
I think there's 5 tax accounts, or maybe 6 because of the residue, I'm not sure. And I think
You get to the crux of
And-
one of the major problems is this cooperative structure is very complicated. We're the only ones in Kent County.
yeah. The only one in Queen Anne's, for example, is Beach Harbor Campground,
And
where you get a share of stock, and then you get the right to lease a campground, and you get to put your camper on it. Same thing.
so, like you say, the Department of Assessment and Taxation has created separate accounts for the 5 lots, including the 3 here in question. And they've been assessed, the land and the buildings have been assessed. We get individual invoices So they're treated as lots. And so what we want to do is record it, instead of it being all in the name of Cackaway Farm Cooperative, the individual owners' names. It makes things a lot simpler for everyone. People are very confused on how to handle the cooperative.
That's perfectly understandable, but recognize that in 1989, it was a choice that the family made to go this route presumably because of the expense or the disinclination to put asphalt on the farm, perfectly understandable, and the expense of that. Though it could have been done. And maybe DPW would have relaxed the road standards, I don't know. But now the problem is that most of the acreage has gone away. And that may be for perfectly legitimate family and estate planning reasons, I don't know, but it's gone away. And to create subdivided lots in the RCA, we can't get around 1 per 20, in my view. That's my opinion of this matter. I wonder if you've thought about creating a condominium regime, which would replace the cooperative and might be better understood by banks, for example, for financing purposes. Condominium units, it could be a lendominium. That is to say, you could create unit number 1 is a 1 acre lot, and then you pour the house into this cube of air. And then you own that cube of air. And banks and other purchasers may be more comfortable with that arrangement than a cooperative, which is unusual in Maryland, very unusual. And I can understand why people, even perhaps banks, are reluctant, because what you get for security is a share of stock, which most people don't understand.
Yeah, that's right.
If it was a condominium arrangement, you would actually you would mortgage it, and you would mortgage the cube of air, which includes dirt. And people are more used to getting a security interest in dirt. And that might solve your practical problems of financing or perhaps selling. My opinion is that Mr. Mackey is correct, and that you can't create a subdivision. You can't create 3 more lots on 15 acres in the RCA.
Well, the point is,
As much as we understand why you want to do it.
there is hardship involved here. The cooperative structure is uninsurable. We're told that, and it's outrageously expensive, and it continues to go up, and we've been told we could very easily be dropped. So it's really, we're in a bad situation.
Unfortunately, the board doesn't have authority to grant density variances.
Well, but why am I here?
It's because you filed an appeal.
Okay. So why didn't you say, don't bother? I'm not sure, I don't understand.
Well, because we did make an appeal, so they are giving us that time and that energy to do
And
that.
this is my opinion. I'm the lawyer here. The board may have a different point of view.
Yeah, they may.
I listened to the other, the variances. Like I say, this was not a request for a variance because nothing is changing. We don't want to change
We understand
anything.
you're appealing his decision.
Yes,
We
correct.
understand you're not asking for a variance.
Correct.
Our
And-
struggle is we're not the Critical Area Commission won't allow us to give you what you want unless you can give them 20 acres per lot. It's the critical, I think it's the Critical Area Commission that is the obstacle here.
Well, to be fair, it's the critical area program in place in Kent County.
Yeah, okay,
which is dictated to the counties by the Critical Area Commission.
yeah.
So, okay, I think that's a fair way to put it. And it's very likely where the board, as sympathetic as the board may be, the Critical Area Commission would become aware of a decision by the board to grant your appeal. And then I could easily see the Critical Area Commission appealing that to the circuit court.
I mean, to me, what's really interesting is in 1989, the critical area actually allowed this to happen because we had 60 acres.
No,
They've
the
already-
Critical Area Commission would not have been involved because you did not subdivide anything.
But according to what they wrote in their letter, that's what they said.
Okay, maybe, I don't know, but.
I mean, so that's, I kind of don't understand, if we already had the 60 acres in order to do one thing, are they asking us for another 60 acres or another?
You had it in 89, but but you don't have it now. You had 60 acres in 89, but you don't have it now. They're not asking for another 60 acres. You didn't apply. You didn't make an application to do a subdivision in 89. And it just sat there from 89 until now, and during that time, you've lost that 60 acres. And so we can't, you don't have it. So it's not possible to grant your request because you don't have all the criteria. You did, but you don't now.
I do see what you're referring to in the last sentence of the third paragraph of their letter, which says, the 1989 plat did not violate the county's critical area program because the 3 dwelling units shown on Part 3 were part of a parcel that totaled more than 60 acres of RCA. Well, that's true. At the time, it was 180 acres. And so the 3 that were subject to the cooperative housing arrangement, and which predated critical area, I get that, were perfectly legal because there was more than 60 acres. And in fact, the 2 lots that were created were also perfectly fine because there was more than 100 acres.
Correct.
There's 180. And now there's not. And so a choice that was made in 1989 not to engage in a major subdivision to get all 5 because, and I agree, I understand, because of the road thing, you didn't want to asphalt road, and it was expensive, I'm sure, or would have been, and so you chose the cooperative thing, and things have changed in the last 33 years.
I don't think it had anything to do with expense, as you imply.
Oh,
I
okay,
think it had much more to do with the fact that for the critical area,
okay,
what they want is to keep it
Sure.
as in agriculture and in wildlife as
perfectly
possible.
understandable.
And Macadam Road just does not comply with that.
Charlie, I think a condo regime would,
Mr. Massey, do you have?
Yeah, does each house have a separate water, a separate well, or is it?
We are about to get separate wells. No, we don't right now.
And how about drain fields and whatever, is that?
Well, that's where the shared facilities agreement comes in. We have a sand mound system, and we have this agreement with the county that there will be no more development
Okay, so all the houses tie into one system?
into one system, yes, that MD specified.
And that's been taken over by the county, that system.
The only thing I was going to question was, you said you came to the appeals board due to misunderstood, you felt like the planning director, Mr. Mackey, had misunderstood the nature of your request. The nature of your request.
That there, I mean, it's there's no change being requested. There's no development. I'm looking at the Comar regulation, and it says, no, you can't approve new development, but there's no new development. That's why I'm concerned that there's terminology problems here. I don't speak, zoning language. And I know that Carla had indicated that she thought it was a simple lot line adjustment. I don't know what to call it, but I just don't know that we're all speaking the same language, because, in the critical areas, I don't know that I just, this Comar, I just don't think that applies in this situation, but.
And the only other thing, there would be another option to solve your problem.
I think there is, but I'm not giving legal advice to you, but it seems to me that you could condominiumize these three houses, and I think the people understand them.
How is that different from fee simple?
It's not a subdivision, that's the important thing. Are we dancing on the head of a pin about this? Yes, 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 but we can't help the fact that we're on that head of the pin, and
You also mentioned that you were concerned about insurance, and maybe the condominium idea would be more appealing to insurance as well.
I don't know.
I've probably done 10 or more land-dominiums over the years, and they're just not controversial. I mean, lenders, insurers, haven't been controversial.
Do you have anything to add?
No, it's just that
You'll have to identify yourself, please.
my name's Michael Masalak.
Okay.
I'm the guy that,
Mike, would you take the oath as well?
Yes, sir, I will.
Do you declare that you're about, the statement you're about to give are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please state your name and address.
Your name and address.
I'm sorry?
State your
Oh, I'm
name and
sorry.
address.
23463 Cackaway Farm Lane, Chestertown, Maryland. And I am also a shareholder, and I hold it's not just shares, it's, you also get a proprietary lease, is what the lawyers call it. But, I really have nothing to add other than to say, I and two other partners, Bob Moore from Kennedyville and John Brown from Wayne, Pennsylvania, we all wanted to be on that farm, and we all wanted the farm not to change. And we could have, we put it all in the critical area. We could have cut it up into 9 lots and sold them off and made a lot of money. That was not our objective. John Brown wanted to live in a little cottage on the point. Bob Moore wanted to live in the big house, the original house. It was built in 1690 or something like that. I took the little tenant house, and we decided we needed to create 2 more lots to make the whole thing work. So we did 2 lots. We would have subdivided and given every person their lot or their house and a little acreage around it. Mine is, for instance, is 1.65 acres. We were, in order to do a major subdivision, according to the zoning ordinance in 1989, it required all of the accoutrements that you typically associate with the development, including a paved road. And our objective was for that farm to continue to look like a farm, be a farm. There were, so after exploring 5 or 6 ownership structures, our lawyers, Piper and Marbury, in Baltimore, suggested that we could avoid recording lot lines if we used a cooperative housing corporation, which is provided for in the laws of the state of Maryland. It's Article 5, subsection 6B, and the Kent County zoning ordinance, which is some 500 pages, as I'm able to decipher, has no reference to cooperative housing corporations. So, to a certain extent, we're in limbo. But at any rate, at that time, when the co-op was created, we created lot lines. They were internal, they were not recorded, but we have lived with them since '89. There are, 5 lots as far as we're concerned. Now, I understand what your attorney is saying, and.
What's his name? That's right.
I'm sorry?
What's his name?
Well, no, do I know your name, sir?
What's right there?
Oh, yes, Drummond, yes, of course. You were the state's attorney at one time.
A long time ago.
Yes. And I know Mrs. Horsey, and I know Mr. Townsend. I've not had the pleasure, the other gentleman. What can I say? We did what we thought was the best thing. We wanted less impervious surface. We wanted to keep the feel of the farm. We were anti-subdivision, anti-development. I would say that we still are, and we have succeeded in doing what we wanted to do. It hasn't changed in 35 or 40 years. And now the primary driver of this desire to create, to subdivide 2 more lots is because our insurance company is the only one we were able to find that would insure a co-op. This is the hardship, that would insure a co-op. And we have had 1 or 2 claims, and they have warned us, 1 more claim and they're gone. And our insurance agents tell us that there's no one else that it will insure us. Whereas if we create the lots that we've always had, we can each go out and buy our own insurance. Now, Mr. Drummond, I don't know whether under the condominium regime, whether each condominium owner goes and buys his own, no, so it does not solve our problem.
Master condominium policy.
Yeah, well, that's what we have with the co-op, so I assume that would not change.
Maybe you should ask the insurance guys.
This is an incredible situation because we have tried everything to comply with the Critical Area Commission, to comply with the Kent County zoning, to preserve this, pretty famous farm because of Cackaway Island. I don't know how many of you, we own that island, and we allow citizens of all over to, pull up on the beach and so forth. I think this is an example where over time, the law gets more and more specific as you try and deal with different situations. And we try and solve all those problems with requirements and regulations and criteria. And at some point, we get to the stage where there's something that makes total common sense, but it doesn't fit the box. And I think that's what we have here. And I welcome your advice. We have to do something, or our houses are going to be uninsured. So, any other questions?
I think I'd put the arm on whoever owns the Farm Corp.
Well, it is a separate corporation, and actually, I am a director of both. And I understand my obligation. When I go into a board meeting of the Farm Corp, I have to have that hat on.
Yep.
And I have to look out for the shareholders of the Farm Corp.
Yep.
When I have the hat, when I'm in a meeting of the board of directors of the co-op, I have my co-op hat on, and I have a fiduciary responsibilities to the shareholders of the co-op. So I can't exercise, it would be improper and unethical of me to exercise my influence over one corporation for the benefit of the other.
I understand that. Maybe some money needs to change hands.
I'm sorry?
Maybe some money needs to change hands.
Is it what? I'm sorry.
Maybe some money needs to change hands.
Oh, I see, yeah.
I'm just you asked for suggestions,
Yes, sir, yes, sir. We have thought about that. It's a, you know, we're stuck and it doesn't, I mean, we're stuck because we can't comply with the ordinance. But what we want to do makes total common sense. We aren't adding 1 square inch of impervious surface. We aren't adding 1 square inch of structure. You know, we aren't building anything in the buffer. We're perfectly willing to accept the 200-foot buffer, which we were not subject to before. You know, there is no common sense in this situation at all. So let me put it this way. The various agencies of government seem not to want to apply common sense to this process.
You know, it is a hardship here. I listened to the requests for variances. They are making changes in the critical areas, and we are not. And they get, you know, to a variance, oh, yes, because of hardship, but nothing for, you know.
Do you have any further comments to make?
No.
Okay. All right. If anyone in the audience has questions for the applicant, for the co-op? Okay. If you'll step back, we'll hear Mr. Mackey's testimony. Mr. Mackey, will you? Sure. Get sworn in. Do you declare the testimony you're about to give in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please be seated. State your name and position, please.
Bill Mackey, Director of Planning, Housing, and Zoning.
Okay.
And, Mr. Chair, I just wanted, for a point of clarification, I think these appeals are de novo. I don't, in the past, I haven't testified.
Yeah, they are de novo.
I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, but I don't have a presentation prepared.
Okay, so you're just submitting your letter to the applicant.
Right. We're trying to provide you what's on the record so that you're
Okay.
able to make a decision.
Okay, okay.
Well, you certainly have the opportunity, if you wish to defend your decision, if you think it's necessary.
Well, you know, we met and walked through a variety of options. You know, this is the option that the applicant would like to pursue in consultation with our own counsel for planning and zoning and the Critical Area Commission. There was sort of agreement that this approach is the correct way to read the code. It's my responsibility to do that and interpret that. So I've tried to present in the most factual way sort of how I came to that conclusion that, you know, the density of 20 acres is really the underlying piece. And unless there were cooperation between the cooperatives, there's just not enough land on the one property to meet the requirements.
Did you offer any other suggestions?
Some of the similar things that your counsel said, I think we mentioned monetization might be an approach. I didn't offer landominium, but it's a great solution. So, but I understand that these situations, right, there's tax implications, there's lots and lots of things that I'm not aware of. I'm really focused on sort of what our zoning code requires. So when I make other sorts of side comments, I do that sort of tentatively, and I want people to understand I'm not an attorney and I'm not a tax counselor and all that. So there's lots of other issues people are dealing with that may not allow them to choose those options, and I certainly understand that. So that's all I have to say, unless you have specific questions.
And is it of your, are you of the opinion that if we were to approve it, that the Critical Area Commission would appeal it and
That I
jump
can't-
back on us?
I can't really opine, sir. That would be their option. They'd have to consider that. I'm sure their counsel would look at it. I don't know what action they would take.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way of knowing. I mean, the Critical Area Commission picks the weirdest things to appeal. You know, they'll appeal an approval of a swimming pool and then not appeal something else, you just never know.
And I imagine they're probably choosing things based on what they may consider to be precedent setting.
I don't know what they choose it on, to be
Okay,
honest with
yeah.
you.
Ms. Horst, do you have any questions from Mr. Mackey? Mr. Massey?
I think you tried to answer, but what do you see as an easy resolution to this? Or do you see an easy resolution?
Well, again, I don't know all of the implications that the property owners have, but the situation in the past that allowed them to proceed this way was that there was a union of the entire property in some manner that allowed them to access more acreage to attach that to the homes. And I think what Carla was mentioned a couple times about the lot line adjustment, if for a moment in a subdivision process, those parcels were brought together, then the houses could take advantage of all the acreage, and then they could re-separate again, and we could note on the plat that density has been reduced on the farm acreage by X number, and then that density is assigned to this other parcel, so that effectively then there is 60 acres per unit. But that's a subdivision process. There would have to be agreement and signature between both co-ops. They would have to both agree to that. And as Mr. Drummond expressed, that does have a financial value to it, I imagine. So almost always does when it has to do with density. But those are not options that I would be in control of.
That actually makes some sense, when I hadn't thought of that. The temporary combination, subject to being subdivided out again, yeah. But that would require the co-op and the farm corporation to cooperate.
Yeah, that was Carla's plan. It was a good one.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's a good idea.
So something like that could work.
Yeah. Well, again, there's all kinds of implications for them.
On your side, something
On
like
our
that.
side, yes, that would be an approvable subdivision process. It would take 2 sets of subdivisions to do it, but that would meet the code and then reallocate things, and that would be all within our zoning code. But that's not what's before us tonight, so yeah.
Yeah.
True,
Yeah.
but thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And what did you term that, what is the terminology you use?
It's just a subdivision process. I'm sorry.
But
It would be taking the 15 acres or 18 acres, whatever it is now, that the co-op owns.
Yeah.
Making it bigger by getting property from the farm cooperative, so that now there's at least 60 acres.
On paper,
And then create the lots,
paper to them.
and then give the excess property back to the farm corporation.
With a notation on the plat that the density has been affected. But that's not the item before us tonight, but yes.
I'm just trying to find the solution.
Absolutely, sir, thank you.
I think we all recognize the difficulty and that the owners are faced with and all. And so it's really great. We went beyond just reading the documents, and we're sympathetic, obviously, with what's going on here. And certainly been some good advice put out there that probably needs to be pursued and possibly create a resolution.
I don't want applicants to be frustrated. I mean, this, when I make a decision, people always have the option to appeal it, and this is sort of, applicant's day in court, literally, with you all. I mean, you're all able to do things that I wouldn't be able to do, and so, yeah, thank you.
Any further questions? Anyone in the audience have a question for the staff? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
If you guys wish to make a final statement.
I would be, if you don't mind.
Mr. Macelag,
Yes.
go ahead.
I would just say that the Farm Corp and the co-op have signed an agreement with the Maryland Department of the Environment that says no further development will occur on the Farm Corp lands. It allows us some flexibility on the co-op lands. So the question, when you talk about money, I don't know whether there's any value. And secondly, you know, the reason you're, and I hope I say this right without offending anybody, but, well, I'm very tactless, always have been, so I'll just say it. Go ahead and grant our appeal, and let's take it to court. You know, what I should say is, if the Critical Area Commission chooses to appeal your decision, so be it. I don't think they will. But, you know, I'm saying stand up for, again, I'm being tactless. I'm saying stand up for yourselves and realize you're not just rubber stamps. You're there for a reason. And so I would say grant the appeal, and let's see what Critical Area Commission does. That's my closing statement.
Thank you. Okay, any thoughts?
There is something to be said for poking the Critical Area Commission in the eye, but there's also something to be said for following the law in the first place. I love poking the Critical Area Commission in the eye, but, you know.
I'm not asking for that. We're asking to let us continue to live with no changes, no development, no.
We don't want to poke their eye, we just.
Well, it seems to me that it's put us in an unfortunate situation. I think we're all sympathetic with
Hardship.
with what's happening here, but our mandate is to enforce the law to the best of our ability, and it seems to me we don't have any choice but to deny or to support Mr. Mackey's interpretation of what's happening and deny the appeal. Anyone have any thoughts on that? Mr. Mackey? Mr. Massey.
I'd love to try it, but you'd knowingly be going against the administration.
Mr. Drummond, can our decision be appealed?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure, the farm co-op could, if you were to decide that Mr. Mackey's decision was proper, then the farm co-op could certainly file an appeal to the circuit court. Absolutely. If you were to decide that he was incorrect and that subdivision of the 3 lots may proceed, then it would be up to the Critical Area Commission as to what it wants to do. Or the commissioners could decide to support what Mr. Mackey did, and the commissioners could note an appeal.
Could the commissioners support us?
I don't think they would, but they could.
Try to be louder, Katie. Louder.
So,
Could the commissioners support our position?
That'd be up to them.
That's an imponderable, you know, I don't know. Yeah, could they? Is it possible, could the commissioners decide to, all right, let's back up. So the Board of Appeals says Mr. Mackey was correct. You note an appeal. Could the commissioners come in and intervene in the case, in that appeal, and say, we support the farm cooperative? Yes, they could. Whether they would or not is, we don't know.
But does that override
No,
our decision?
no.
It just supports the
Just be,
decision,
yeah.
if they wanted to appeal it.
Yeah. Or
Have an
if the Critical Area Commission, appeals a decision that you make, the commissioners could intervene in that case on either the Critical Area Commission side or opposed to the Critical Area Commission.
so we're not the end of the road.
No.
So we're not the end of the road.
No, you're not the end of the road. Right.
So, any comments?
No, I'll just,
Okay.
information he had to work with, I make a motion that we support the decision of the zoning administrator, Mr. Mackey.
I second the motion.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Fortunately, the motion passed, and we denied your application, your request.
And we'll get a written decision, and then you all can decide what's best for you.
I'm going to move in with you.
Sorry. Need to approve the minutes.
Has everyone had the opportunity to read last month's,
Yeah,
or our previous meetings?
they look
Minutes?
okay to me. They look okay to you.
Look okay to me.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
A second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Motion passed. Minutes been approved. And I think Ms. Horsey asked a question about the,
I think he answered it. When
the,
does the year start? When the decision is
When the
signed?
decision is, yeah.
It's signed.
okay.
It's the same with when the appeal period runs. It starts when you sign off on the decision. Because in the meantime, you could, someone could say, well, I want to put it back on the agenda, and I may change my mind, before you sign off on it. Okay, are we off?
Anybody, anything else? Do I hear a motion?
Do you have anything for November?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor? Aye.